Okay, guys, thanks for coming and gracing this occasion. I hope you will be taking back a lot of information and knowledge from our all eminent speakers. Quickly, I mean, you have heard Microsoft, you have heard the group channel discussion as well. So I'll just take a brief about what SAVIC is all about. So we are SAP Platinum partners in India, and we started way back in 2016 with a handful of customers and 8 founders, co-founders starting this organization. So we are in the 8th year of this journey, and we have almost 450 plus acquired customers across the globe, and we must have done close to 150 S/4HANA implementation. So we are permanently has been SAP shop. Anything under SAP umbrella, yes, we are there. So we look, or we would say that we will, customers would look at us as a one-stop shop. So we offer all kind of services under the technology sun, right? So we have almost close to 600 plus employees in the organization. More of technical function would be about 80% of the total employees. And from a lift and shift, I mean, this is what today the subject was all about, cloud, right? So moving to cloud, either with the SAP or a non-SAP kind of an ERP. So we have a sizable number of employees in this organization who helps in this entire lift and shift journey, from non-premise to cloud. We are Microsoft Gold partners. So that is why we are here with SAP and Microsoft. So we have done good sizable implementations during last 4 or 5 years. So our journey with Microsoft has been about 5 years. So we have done a sizable migrations to cloud with Azure as well. And we are also service providers. We have partnered with large I would say software organizations like Kinaxis and ICTs, as well as Adobe ServiceNow, where we offer all these services to most of the organizations. Kinaxis mainly from the demand and supply management. We have customers across industries from different aspects. We are limited to only a few organizations going by the sequence of CPG, retail, and EC&Os. So these are few customers we have sizable, and we have footfall across 10 states in India, a couple of them in US, one in Middle East, and one in Singapore. So this is a short brief about what SAVIC is all about. If you have any questions, I would be happy to address. Anything to know more about SAVIC? I mean, I didn't want to waste your time. You would be angry after a long day work, so definitely. Anyone? I have a few more slides. I don't want to take too much of your time. So, I mean, if you have any questions, I can take it up. I mean, few of my, there are customers whom we have worked with, few of them. Definitely, I would like to have every one of them in my logo list, aspiring basically. Anyone? All the while in this entire 2-hour session, only one person was asking the question. I think everyone is keeping mum. I don't know.
No, don't worry from that, because everything was very receptive, and so it's not a question. Nobody is asking a question, so everything is blank. Because people are more receptive, and the session went well, right? And sometimes what happen? Okay, when you are asking question and you are trying to asking a question, right? The audience next to what you can say talk answering automatically, or somebody else asking the question. There is no point in asking those. But all sessions went well, particularly you can say the panel discussion and the guy, the first who was giving information on Azure. So I think we all are technical people, so somehow the way every time there is a takeaway from every session. So
exactly, that's what I mentioned. I mean, I hope everyone has taken what they wanted to from here, because you have spent the entire day and then you're coming here for 2 hours, wanted to know many things. So I believe everyone has understood many things. If there are any questions, please I mean, we have still our eminent speakers here. They can address your points. Anyone? Sorry. Is this technical or what is it? Technical. Yeah. So I mean, Mouzzam.
Hello. So Vijay from Shapurji. I basically look after smart city business, and it is about security, because in smart cities we connect to multiple applications in a single platform, and we are doing multiple audits and everything. The zero security, 0-day security, everything is there. But when we talk about the multiple application integration, how, or just want to understand what are the precautions we have to take when we integrate our system with other system using API, because we can do the infrastructure readiness and security in our infrastructure, but when it come across API and everything, when third party is going to take our data and our data is going to go to the third party, then what type of basic security questions we have to ask them to save our data and to ensure that we are in a secure environment and we are going to a secure environment.
Sure, Mouzzam.
Mr. Ansari, you can join us on the stage, please.
So basically, so if you are looking for an integration, you can do either. If it is something which is in your control, banks may not allow you to have that sort of a control because they already have that policies in their environments implemented. But if it is any other integrations, maybe you're connecting to your client or maybe to any other vendor you are connecting. In that case, either you can go for a tunnel sort of a thing, which is a secure thing. In that way, you can connect. Or if it is over a public IP, then in your firewall, in their firewall, you can whitelist your IPs. It is something which is very nominal thing we do. Plus, if you are going via host name, nowadays being cloud, many things are not getting routed via IPs. If you are going via host name, you can whitelist a host name also nowadays, right? So these are the things you can take care. Plus, definitely you can go for a vulnerability scans. If there are any loopholes, there are services available which can do the penetration test also, just to check if there are any vulnerabilities open in the system. So 2-3 things you can take care. Yes, sir.
Nowadays, is it on? As he asked, I go just a bit more on that. You know, SAP itself, as far as India is concerned, e-invoicing, right? It's a concept of what you can say, my production IP, because it has, when I'm creating an invoice, right, it is generating the IRN number and it's going to GST portal. Then from there, I'm getting the QR code, which I'm supposed to print on my invoice, right? So it is basically the handshaking from my SAP production environment to that particular provider, and then coming back. So how can I rely my, what you can say, security to that particular service provider, because that service provider again agent kind of thing between the government portal and this. So there are three-step process.
So basically what I can say, if your data is going over the cloud, so you can do the encryption of those data. And either way, no matter what sort of data you are transferring over cloud, it is ideally encrypted. Okay, so if you try to visualize that the data is removing from a system A and it is reaching a system B over the internet, right? Someone can penetrate into your data and he can steal your information. But if that is encrypted, even if he steals the data, he'll not be able to make out any meaningful information of it. And as I said, like, these government portals are already secure enough. They have the public audits to be done. They have to submit the reports. Those reports are also available, what sort of precautions they are taking, right? So in such cases, these are already secure enough. Like, if you don't trust that, then you can, I think you can ask for the security measures what they are taking up.
I hope other, yeah.
I've said enough.
Hope I answered your questions.
Hello. Hi, one question from my side. Do we have existing objects already in SAP, I mean a data connector kind of things that talks about sales register and purchase register along with the TDS data or a TCS data readily available?
No, sorry, I'm not from the functional side. I may not be able to answer you.
Okay.
I'm from a technical side.
Okay, fine, thank
Yeah,
you.
but we can get back to you.
Okay.
Yes, because
So Ansari, I think you come from the basis background, right? And
Sure.
If you are on S4 HANA and you have like embedded BPC kind of a component within it. So if you have to upgrade now, anything, any version 21 or 01 or whatever is the latest ends version, I think if we have to do that, so have you done anything in that sort? Because it's an embedded component within S4.
See, although it's not exactly BPC, but we have upgraded other systems where there are some add-ons installed in it. As such, there are no separate prerequisites to do so. As far as the component, the target version of the add-on is available in that respective version. Just for example, let's suppose you have a 1610, you installed some add-on on it, and down the line in 2020, SAP is not providing that particular component. In that case, it could be a difficult moment, because first you have to uninstall that add-on and then only you can upgrade it to 2020. But as far as SAP is providing the add-on product in the upgraded version also, you can continue your upgrade in a normal way, the way you are doing other upgrades. For example, even if it is a plain S4 HANA, the same way along with the BPC will also go. The only thing is, at the time of upgrading and generating the stack file maintenance planner, you have to exclusively select BPC also, or else BPC will not be continued. You will not find BPC in the target version, or it could somewhere end up in between only. System may prompt you that this particular version is there, not there in the target version. So is it a deliberate thing or is it something happened by mistake? System will prompt you while you will do a technical upgrade.
Because the latest version talks about new functionalities like GR, which is group reporting and all. Okay, but still, if you typically look at BPC, the product itself is letting it is phasing out by SAP as such. Okay, in that context, what happens is this particular component which is an embedded in it. What would be the best way? For example, if you have to upgrade it directly. Hello, yeah. If you upgrade it directly, then what happens is this component would not work. Okay, and what happens is either you need to do the re-implementation of it in a classical version or something like that. But I think you may not be able to answer it right away. But I'll have a offline discussion on this.
Sure, sure.
I think that's one more.
So Vijay again. See, I am the part of one of the SAP migration. At that time when we moved from old system to new system, we do the backup restore and everything. So just want to understand, because currently we are not using SAP, but many people are connecting us for the technical support, how we are going to do and what are the possibilities are there. So normal program migration from one SAP system to other SAP system is not having any issue. But what are the precautions we have to take when migration to Z programs? Because Z programs is a very ethical factor which is creating a lot of concerns when we migrating to UAT to production. Because they may run in the background, a lot of queries are running, programs are running, SD and all ABAPers are required to do that. So when we do the pre-request check and the plan for migration, how we are planning to migrate the Z programs which are part of our system and which are essential for HR operations also, operations also, SD operations also. Material management is the main part of it.
So you are referring to a cloud migration, right?
It is any type of SAP migration. It may be a physical to physical or physical to virtual. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because application remains same.
Okay, so as far as you are doing this sort of a migrations, your Z programs will not be hampered unless you are going for the last option, which what I showed you. Even in that method also, all your Z programs goes as is, because your programs are unchanged even by a single bit unless you go for an SAP application upgrade. If you are going for an SAP application upgrade, only then your programs and Z programs are touched. in these migrations, none of your Z programs are even changed by a single bit. It will work as it was working on premise. See, in terms of migrating from on premises to cloud, the only concern could be of an integrations. If you are having an integrated applications, that may completely stop working, because network, we tried to secure network to a very great extent. Now we even have what is called, I'm forgetting the name, alias IP. For example, the actual IP is different, and then there is an alias IP, which is a different. So if I give you an alias IP, you will be able to access the system, but that's not an actual IP. That's just an alias of an actual IP, whereas the actual IP is hidden somewhere, right? So in such situations, now certain applications, the integrated applications will work, but not 100% of the applications will work, because the application may be able to read that this is not an actual IP. In that case, you have to ensure, and the only way to ensure these things is the UAT. Testing is the only way in terms of migrations which could prove your migration either successful or a failure. That's the only way where you can ensure that the migration, when you will be doing the actual migration, that's what I mentioned in the POC. We will be doing the POC and then end-to-end testing. Although certain applications testing could not be done, those are the simple integrations. For example, e-invoicing. Most of us may be having an invoicing in place, but that is a very simple, straightforward sort of an integrations that may not require much sort of a testing, because if it is a live system, I may not be able to generate code in our test systems, because that's a live system. So those things we have to take care only at the time of a migration only. And in such situations, I have to inform the vendor also that my public IP will be changing or my IP will be changing, and I have to map their IP in my system. So that we can do only once. Such integrations may be out of our control. We have to take that risk at the time of a production only. But if it is an internal thing, or if it is a vendor thing, what we can come to a common terms, like I'll be changing for some time for your development systems, because in SAP we have ideally three landscapes: development, quality, productions. Some companies even have a pre-production also, right? In such the same way, the vendors also have the systems, not only the production, they also have a development quality. At times we can try to connect to their development systems with our new production system, just to ensure that the transactions are happening. Yes,
when
please.
we talked about the connectivity, when we move to cloud, everything will be on the internet. Okay, so assume that I have a 500 number of users sitting in a HO, which are connecting SAP, and when the on-premises are there, they are working on the LAN. Okay, so there is no bandwidth crunch and everything happening. There has to be a RJ45 connectivity, LAN connectivity, and they will work. When we migrating from physical system to the virtual system on cloud, how the internet sizing can be done? Because when we are in an internal infrastructure, everything will be on a LAN. When we go outside, there is only internet is a medium which is connecting my internal user to the cloud. And sizing is much more important, because if bandwidth is getting full, then no one will be able to work on it.
See, if you access SAP systems, the very first thing, if all users are sitting in one place, then you can go for a tunnel. It will be a secure over the internet. So even if someone penetrates, as I answered before, even someone penetrates and traces your data, or even a bits of data from the source system and the target system, he'll not be able to make out any meaning of it. As far as the bandwidth is concerned, SAP only takes hardly few KBs of data when our normal GUI transactions are happening. So if you ask me in general, then for a users of around 100 users, 10 MB is more than enough in a normal conditions, right? But if the end users are uploading or downloading any documents, for example, I'm attaching a document, right? And then now the bandwidth may become choked, because if my document size is maybe higher, maybe if any one of you are using any pictures or any sort of a CAD drawing, those who are in the constructions business, in the real estate business, if you are using a CAD drawings, right, then the size of those drawings are pretty big. In that case, definitely you need to size it based on the document size. Okay, so for example, if you presume the ideal size of a document is around 5 MB, and tentatively you presume that 5 users anytime will be downloading or uploading the document. In that case, you need to have minimum 30 Mbps of the size. So that 25 will be used by this uploader, downloaders of the documentations. Remaining 5 will be left for the normal SAP GUI users. Now this 5, I'm considering that the number of users are less. If the number of users goes high beyond 100, 200, 300, then you need to increase the bandwidth size also. There are certain benchmarks given, right? Following those things, we can arrive to some logical conclusions. And if also onto the Azure side, if you see, there is no bandwidth limits. It's around 200 Mbps, which is way too higher. The only bandwidth what you need to control is onto your side, right? You can start from the minimum, you can check those things in the POC, you can do the testing, and then if you feel that this is not sufficing your requirement, you can scale up a bit.
So at the end, where will be the reporting server? That should be on a cloud, or that should be on the in cloud setup also when we are migrating. If we want to fetch reports, like account teams want a lot of reports from the system, which is taking a time. Basically, when we understand there is a bandwidth choke because any report is taking more than 1 minute or 1.2 minutes, then we are finding out a lot of issues come to basis, and basis is checking the database utilization and everything. That is also going very found. If there is any deadlock into the query which is creating an issue, then we have to reboot the system or restart the SAP also in some of the cases. But every organization is creating a reports to understand what business we have yesterday and what is the last closing of the day and what is the opening of the day. That is the most of the things. At that time, specific reports are creating, fetching the data of the entire day. It may be an incremental report, it may be a full report, depends on the requirement. In that scenario, if we are moving on cloud, so it is possible, it is a required suggestion on this, whether reporting server should be on a cloud or reporting server should be on an infrastructure inside where the team is sitting.
See, when you say about the reporting now, then the data which is transferred from this reporting is not huge. If you see, then hardly few KBs or hardly few MBs of data is getting transferred over the internet, whereas the most of the time what is going is in calculating those reports. See, one is OLTP sort of things where we do transactions. One is OLAP, when we analyze the data. Analysis systems is anytime heavier than the transactional systems. So when you do an analysis, most of your time could be into your systems, right? Whereas if you want to specifically know about how much data will be required, there is an SAP note available and the general FAQs onto the network side, plus they have a tool also available which you can use to check how consistent, how stable your network is. See, if you have a big internet, I mean a bandwidth is more, but if it is not stable, you will face the network issues. Even if you, but if you have a smaller or a lesser bandwidth of an internet, but if it is stable, you will not feel any lag in that part, because the data which needs to get transferred, it needs to have a seamless sort of an internet. If there is any sort of an interruptions in between, right, then the data will be resent again at a network level, right? So if the issue what you are facing maybe in terms of that when you generate a report, the system is taking a lot of time, not necessarily this is because of the network, because the data is all calculated, permuted, everything into the cloud systems only, and hardly a few KBs of data is shifting to your system. So it is not because of the network you may be facing that issues. It could be probably your hardware is falling short of it. Your hardware is maybe not able to perform that amount of data in that particular timeline what you are expecting. Also, just to troubleshoot, what you can do, don't download the data, log into the cloud system itself, download the data from there. For example, if you are having a cloud system and maybe if it is on Windows or Linux, log into the RDP, download the data there itself. So basically your data will not be coming onto the on-premise, it will be in the cloud only. Now if the time differs, then you will be able to identify that the time taken was by the network, not by the system. Because now the data is not coming down, it is residing in the server itself. Or maybe even if it is a Linux system, you can log into a VNC or Tiger VNC sort of things, you can check in system itself. I'm not taking the data out of the system, it is in the system. Now you'll be able to check out same report, how much time difference. First time the time will be more, second time it will be less because now the data will be already in the RAM memory. So don't calculate based on that only. So you have to run it 3-4 times to come to some common conclusions. Yes sir, please.
Yeah, we don't have a DR system, and I'm trying to think what should be the parameters or should be considered on deciding whether we should have DR system or not? That's the first question. Second question is how it should be. Like, should it be on different cloud, a different service provider? How should be the DR system designed?
Okay. The very first thing, whether you need a DR or not, is to be decided by your current service provider or the current hardware. If you are on premises, in that case, I would say definitely you should have a DR or at least a very, very thorough backup on place, because cloud people, since it is their business, may it be any data center, it is their primary business, so they will be doing anything to secure the data, and a chance of having attacks on those platforms, although they are open to all, but they are secure enough to have any sort of such incidents and events. There will be an attack definitely, but it will not be on a success level, will be very less on clouds, whereas the success rate on premises will be very high, because it is not our primary business to secure the data, whereas the cloud service providers, it is their primary business to secure the data, right? So this is one thing. Plus on-premises systems, limited we may have limited finance provided to the IT team. They may not be having enough things in place. So these factors increases the risk of systems crashing altogether. We may have a system whose hardware has failed and it is not in a cluster where a system could fail over to the another node, because again, managing a cluster itself is a very big challenge, and I personally don't recommend to go for clusters. I have seen more issues on cluster systems than non-cluster systems, just because of cluster, right? So in such situations, although you are on cloud, but if you are in a good stable environment, then ideally you don't need a DR, to my understanding. But if it is the compliance reason, right, and if you have to have a DR just because of the compliance reason, then I mean, I don't think so there is any point asking whether we need to have. But technically, if you are on a stable environment, you don't need a DR. Now there are two options available. Just one second. There are two options available of having a DR. One is you can go for a storage level replication. This is cost effective, because you will be replicating your data from one storage to the another storage, whereas your system, your compute will not be used. If you go for a database replication, although in HANA this is most used, and I personally is more comfortable with a database level replication, because there are thousands of things going on inside a database, which I think storage level may not be able to manage depending upon what solution you are using. But if you go for a database level replication, if you are deleting any data from a source system, instantly it will be deleted from the target system also, right? So there is a catch here also. In HANA, there is no mechanism where you can control the transfer of this data. It will be getting replicated into the DR system immediately. So if you delete any data, it is gone from the DR also. This option, the database option, is little bit expensive also across platforms. If you are compare HANA, may it be Oracle, may it be Sybase, because you need to have your DR systems up and running. If your source system is 256 GB, you need to have minimum 160 GB, 170 GB DR system up and running. Whether you are using it or not, you need to have that much of system up and running. Whereas if you go for the storage level replications, it will be little bit cost effective, but if there is a virus attack, there is any sort of an attack onto your on-premises system, everything will get replicated to your DR also. So if you lose your on-premises because of software issues or because of virus attacks, then your DR is also gone. This option is only okay if your hardware fails. Storage level replication is okay. If your source hardware fails, in that condition, yes, your DR will be of use to you. But if in case your software is compromised, maybe someone attack and there is a Trojan attack or maybe a ransomware attack, it has encrypted your data. Now all the DR data is also encrypted at the same time. So this option may not be suitable in such situations. Both the options have the pros and cons. Near me, the best method is to have a very robust backup and restore mechanism. I have seen very big clients having 300 servers. They are using backup restore mechanism as a fallback to all situations. Yes, sir.
The only concern is ransomware, and we are on Azure, so I'm not worried about hardware failures. We take hourly backups of log backup, and that is again backed up in Azure, so I'm not worried. But maybe it's a business question. But I want to understand the industry. Like we have that 1 hour of data which is not backed up, right? So is it industry standard? Like our people are very sensitive to that.
No, so it depends on client, customer to customer basically, but it's not that 1 hour data is not backed up. You can have the log backups in place and that could happen every 5 minutes, right? No data will be increased as such, but it depends how lesser time of data you can afford to lose. And it's not like you will be losing the 100% of your data. For example, if you are very cautious of your data, you can back up your data. I mean the log backups, not the full backup. You can schedule your system to have the log backups every 5 minutes, as less than, you can even schedule it for the lesser period also. But then definitely the shorter the period you will add, the more the load will be onto your storage. If you are having a less time between your one log backup and the another log backup, in that case you need to have a better storage. Plus the size of the storage needs to be little bit more. But then you will not lose your 1 hour data. It will be hardly 5 minutes of data you will be losing max. Because between the two systems, if 10:05 your log backup has happened, and if the system crashes exactly at 10:09:59, in that case you will lose 5 minutes of data. Whereas if the crash has happened anywhere in between these two times, you will be losing hardly 2 minutes or 3 minutes of data.
What kind of companies or businesses go for DR, and what kind of companies take risk and stay on a without DR environment?
See, as such, I should say this is not company specific or an industry specific sort of a solution. This is more of a person who is leading that. If a person is from a business background, he is not a core IT person. In that case, he may leave things on to the partner. Then in that case, the answer from the customer side is very different than from the person who has some previous IT background. I have one of the client who has managed data center. So his question is beyond imagination sort of things. What if there is a missile attack? What if there is a whole Mumbai has gone? This sort of a questions he asks, right? Just because his background is of that way. If a person is from has came from a development background, then the ABAPAs are gone. So it does not, it's not specific to an industry or to a company, I should say. It is more of a specific to the person whom you are speaking with. So it's not an industry sort of a thing or a company sort of a thing. It is a person sort of a thing, and what the background he has. So if he is very technical, then he will definitely ask even for that 5 minutes also. He may ask you to have the log backup every 2 minutes. So possibles.
Do you have any advice?
If I may add, for example, if you look at it from a SAP perspective, what SAP is selling today is something called Rise with SAP. It's available on both the cloud version as well as a private edition. Things have evolved to such a stage that today on the cloud, they are offering a 99.7% availability. Okay, and they offer DR as a service. If you implement DR, it moves it by 2 points. So if you are really interested to move from a 99.7 to a 99.9, implement a DR. But most of the cloud operators today don't recommend going for a DR because of the high availability that they have built within their systems itself.
Not hardware failure.
Okay. So that's a different question altogether. The backup helps. That is where your backup helps. Say for example, as you said, if your data is getting encrypted and you have a DR, you will have the same situation happening at the other end also.
No, there is we are on Sybase, so there is a lock shipment. So I assume they are isolated systems, and it will only push transactions to other system. And assuming the other system is managed by different people, then there is some air gap. So hopefully that system we will preserve the data. Even if it's down for 1 hour, that's fine. But I don't want to lose data because that's a mess.
See, as far as your executables are not getting shipped to the DR system, what happens, I personally has faced this ransomware in one of the place. So it is something, it is an executable. Unless you execute it, it will not run on its own, right? Whereas if you are shipping your data and the drive in the DR drive is attached to it, then that particular drive may also get compromised, because once once the ransomware executes, all the places wherever it can reach out, it will encrypt everything. It will just encrypt, right? You have to pay them in some bitcoins only, then some method you have to pay only, then you will be able, they will give you the decryption key, then you can decrypt your data and your data will be there. But if you are sending it some another mechanism, for example, the drive is not attached to your system, you are sending it out via some secure mechanism like SFTP or any other secure protocol. If you are sending the data, then that particular data, even if it reaches, for example, any encrypted log file also reaches there, it will be safe enough. It will not spoil the DR system. If it is a Sybase system.
Yeah. I think I'm being constantly reminded that the food is getting cold.
Yeah.
So probably we can discuss this offline, sir. We can network. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for attending this particular session.
Fine. Thank you so much.